Dereck Lively is the Dallas Mavericks' answer at center, but when will they be ready for him? I'll answer that question and more on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks.
Mavericks, NBA champions. Bang! It's good, and the Mavericks have won the game.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Loyalty never fades away.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being part of the show and making Locked On Mavs your first listen every day. Join the Raccoon Squad, be an everydayer, subscribe or follow for free. Just search Locked On Mavericks wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube. The best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day and to comment anything below. Let us know in the comment section, who will play more minutes this season, according to you? Dwight Powell, Rashawn Holmes, or Dereck Lively? Curious what we think at this point in the offseason. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook partner of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started today. If you want to support the show, text us. Get text alerts from us on rumors and all kinds of things. Just ask us normal questions, get to know us a little better and all that. Subscribe to our subtext. Click the link in the description or text the number on the screen. You get text straight to your phone. Isaac Harris out today doing a family thing. His son just turned 5 years old. That's crazy because us doing this podcast, and this podcast is older than his kid. We've been doing this podcast since 2017. His kid is not as old as us doing this podcast is. And I think that's hilarious. But on today's show, let's get into Dereck Lively. I want to talk about Dereck Lively because Isaac has been on this for a little while. Dereck Lively should start for the Mavericks to start the season. They should just do it. Rip off the Band-Aid and do it. And so I want to dive into that. Is Dereck Lively ready for that? Should the Mavericks do that? And is there any precedent to teams doing that? What rookie centers? I'm going to look over the last 10 years. What rookie centers have played? How well have their teams done? And so on. Is there precedent for a rookie center playing on a team that has playoff aspirations? I've got an answer to that. Well, let's start here. Dereck Lively is the answer for the Dallas Mavericks at center. He is. They drafted him, the 12th pick, knowing that he was going to be the answer. The problem is they just don't know when, right? Like that's why we've been talking about a stopgap center. Well, could they bring in a Clint Capella? Could it be a Zubats? Could it be, Brook Lopez? Like who could they bring in for like 2 years to bide some time until Dereck Lively actually starts for the Mavericks? And it's because he is the answer. He's so perfect. He's just so perfect for what the Mavericks want to do. As a pick and roll guy, I was watching more of his film today, and you just see his ability to set a big screen. He's a big body, 7'1", 7'7" wingspan. He's big. He's not that slender coming out too, which is a real big plus, especially in a rookie year. And he'll get bigger even too, because he's gonna, now he's gonna work out with NBA trainers and all that. But you see him in the pick and roll. He sets a big screen, and then he rolls into the paint, and he's just a big target. He's just a huge target on a roll, which is what the Mavericks really want, to play off of Luka Doncic, to play off of Kyrie. And he defends the rim really well. He defends in space a little bit, which the Mavericks need. And in today's NBA, you need where he can move his feet. He can step out. You saw it in Summer League. That he can step out and he can defend a little bit. He can move his feet. He can rebound. This is huge. It's mostly because of his size, really. Mavericks haven't had a center like this in a while with that kind of size. Porzingis, but he doesn't rebound the way that Lively does. And he can make the right pass. Watching some of his stuff today, he can make the right pass. And we even saw it in Summer League again. Just like gets on the free throw line, makes a pass to the short roll. Just incredible decision maker with the ball as well for a center and for his spot. He checks off all the boxes of things that you want the Mavericks center to have. The problem is the Mavericks timeline and his timeline are very different things. He's a player coming into the NBA right now. He's 19 years old. He played 1 year at Duke. He didn't play that much at Duke because of players ahead of him, because of the roster construction on that Duke Blue Devils team, like all that stuff. But he's coming in really green, really mature, he's a mature person, and I think he's a mature individual. The problem is he's not a mature basketball player yet, and that's not any fault of his. He's one and done at Duke. Didn't play a ton at Duke, and now all of a sudden he's going to come into the NBA on a team that expects to win. I mean, that is... He played 700 minutes at Duke, 34 games. It's just not a lot of time, 20 minutes a game in college. To expect him to come in and to play right away, even though he has all the tools, he has every aspect of his game is exactly what the Mavericks want in a center. Even though that's the case, he's just so green in order to do that right away. But here's a couple reasons why I think he could do it. I think that Dereck Lively knows his role, and I think he accepts his role. He's a really mature player. He knows every answer he ever gave leading up into Summer League, where Summer League, he could look at it and say, well, I'm looking around and I'm the highest draft pick here. Jaden Hardy was a second-round pick. Sure, he played in the NBA last year, but come on. I was the number 1 player in my high school class, too. That don't mean anything. I was the number 12 pick. Look at Omax. Omax was 20. He was the 24th pick. Look at Mike Mile. He didn't get drafted. He could have come in and said, I'm the guy. I'm coming in and give me touches. Dudley, give me touches. It's unrealistic for him to have done that, but he could have done that. Instead, he knew exactly what his role was. Every answer he ever gave, leading up to Summer League, at Summer League, I was there. I was there asking him questions. Hey, what do you expect to do? What do you think your role is? What do you want to showcase in Summer League? I want to defend. I want to rebound. I want to be a roller and do all that kind of stuff. That's what he wants to do. That's what he knows he can do, and that's what he's excited to do in the NBA. And his role in the NBA, for if he does play any for the Mavericks, is so clear. Defend the rim, defend in space a little, rebound, and make the right pass. That's it.
Yo, you see Apple Jacks?
That's it. That's what his role is. And he knows what he needs to do in that role. And I think that because his role is so clear, so defined, they're not going to try and ask him to do more than he needs to. They'll be able to say, just do those things. And he knows what his role is and he accepts it. I think that gives him a leg up on some of these other players that we're going to talk about a little later. I went through 10 years of players. I went through 10 years of rookie centers that have played in the NBA, have been drafted and have played in the NBA. And I went through all of them to try and figure out, all right, is there precedent for a rookie center playing a lot of minutes on a team that expects to win? And I think he has a leg up on a lot of these guys because you look at the team construction on some of these other guys and you say, well, he's just got it down more. He just knows exactly. It's more defined. It's more like centralized. They need very specific things from him. They're not just saying, hey, we need some talent out there. Well, they've got talent in Luka and Kyrie. They've got that. They've got scoring. They've got playmaking. They've got all that. They've got guys that can defend on the wing. They're not asking for him to step out and do something that's outside of his comfort zone. Though the problem is, can he be good enough at some of those things? The things that he's going to struggle with early on, we know this. He's going to struggle with setting screens. I don't think it's going to be terrible, awful. I don't think it's going to be, every screen that he sets is going to be bad. But that's something he's got to work on. He's got to work on it with ball handlers, learn their rhythm. And if he learns Luka's rhythm early, that's an incredible sign for him because that's going to be huge for him to learn Luka's rhythm, for him to be able to set a screen where Luka wants to set a screen. And if he can learn that early, that even sets him even farther ahead of where we think he is. But refs will call stuff on some of his screens. He's got to work on that. He's going to have to learn the defense. He's going to have to learn where he needs to be. He's going to have to learn how to rotate because this Mavs defense is not super easy to get right away. Ask Christian Wood. Ask, a bunch of players that have struggled to try and figure out what their role is in this defense. He's got to figure that out. And something we saw at Summer League is he's such a vocal player. He's such a vocal defender. And his first season, I don't think he's going to be ready to come out and be that vocal leader, but the Mavericks need that. You want to say another thing the Mavericks need desperately. They need somebody to call out stuff from the back line. And he's the guy to do that. The problem is, and it's this whole conundrum that we're in right now, Dereck Lively is the answer for the Dallas Mavericks at center, but when will they be ready for him? The vocalness on defense is paramount to all those. They need that so badly. Maybe Grant Williams becomes that guy. Maybe he's a little bit more of that than I expect. But they just, from looking at last year's team to now, they need that so desperately. So coming up, let's talk about the precedent. I want to go through some players and some rookies over the last 10 years or so and talk about where they were and where these teams were and if there's precedent for a rookie center playing on a winning team. We'll talk about that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about FanDuel. Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon and see what's available for you. You can go and check out all the kinds of MLB odds and things like that. They have NBA stuff as well. They got WNBA. Let's see where our Dallas Wings are at this point, because the WNBA, the Wings are playing really well right now. The Wings are third as far as WNBA championship right now. The Aces -310, which is wild to see a team favored to win the title like that. But they are that good. I mean, they just beat the Wings the other night. So Aces -310, New York Liberty +270, the Wings +3,000, the Sun +3,000. And then the next team is the Mystics at +8,000. So it is really the Aces and the Liberty, and then the Wings and the Sun are in a tier underneath those, which is really interesting. So if you want to check out that, you want to check out any kind of MLB action as well, you can get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets up to $200. That's right. Just bet $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. Go check it out. You get paid instantly. Sign up today. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Thanks everybody for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of this show, part of the Raccoon Squad, being it every day or listening every day. All right, Isaac, let's get into some of these other players. So we've talked about Dereck Lively. He is the answer for the Dallas Mavericks at center. Dwight Powell does some good things. Richaun Holmes will probably do some good things. I don't know that those guys are going to be good enough to take them up a level in the areas that they're going to need to. Dwight and Richaun Holmes are going to bring the pick and roll action. They're going to be awesome at that. That's going to put them ahead early on in this season, especially in training camp when Jason Kidd is looking out across the players at training camp and trying to figure out who's my starting center. He may already have the answer. He had the answer last season at Summer League. It was JaVale McGee. And then 8 games into the season, he bailed on that one, which was a good decision by Jason Kidd. He may already think he has the answer, but when he decides to look across these 3 guys and says, who's my starting center? Richaun Holmes and Dwight Powell have such a leg up on Dereck Lively because they're incredible pick and roll guys, and that's what the Dallas Mavericks want to do. And they're going to look really good at times. Problem is, defensively, those guys they're just small. Dwight Powell 6'10". Richaun Holmes is listed at 6'8" places, but I think he's probably 6'9", 6'10", something like that. Him and Dwight are about the same size. But the guys don't have huge wingspans. They're not the prototypical defend the rim type player. They can get out in space and they can defend in space and they can move their feet probably a little bit better than Dereck Lively can at this point in his career. But defensively, they're just, and rebounding wise, neither of those guys are giving you what Dereck Lively could give you. And what Dereck Lively can give the Dallas Mavericks is what the Dallas Mavericks need desperately at that spot. So I go back to my original point. He is the answer at center. The problem is, when will they be ready for him? The problem is that there's not a lot of precedent. There's not a lot of precedent of a rookie center playing on a team that's good. And you want to look at Jason Kidd and some of the players that he's played. Some of the rookies or youngish players that he's played. Josh Green, he was kind of a rookie when Jason Kidd started. He was in his second year, but he didn't play a lot under Rick Carlisle. Josh Green in Jason Kidd's first year found a role on the team around December 27th. So late December, he started to find a role. Then he played 18 minutes a game for pretty much every game after December 27th. So after Christmas, he found himself a role. Jason Kidd found a role for him, played him 18 minutes a game, and then he even played in the playoffs, which was huge. Last year, Jaden Hardy's rookie year. Jaden Hardy was in the G League until early January, and then he played 17 minutes a game in 37 games to end the season. The Mavs were in a very tough situation, very different spots between where Josh Green's Mavericks team was that year and where Jaden Hardy's Mavericks team was that year. Jaden Hardy's Mavericks team was falling out of the playoffs. Josh Green's Mavericks team was rising up and dominating towards the end of that season and then went on the Western Conference Finals run. So very different teams, but still very similar. Late December, early January, they started to find a role and Jason Kidd started to play them because he realized I need a guy like that. I needed a wing defender, needed a guy that'll move the ball a little bit with Josh Green, needed some shooting, needed a guy that's fearless, and that was Jaden Hardy last year. So Jason Kidd has played those guys, but he waited and he bided his time and he waited for those guys to develop a little bit more. And then he felt like he could trust them. I think it's going to be the same with Lively too. Let's look at some other players that Jason Kidd played as rookies, because I think this informs us a little bit on how he could handle Dereck Lively. Jason Kidd has played 2 rookie centers in his career as a coach. He coached for the Nets, the Milwaukee Bucks, and now the Dallas Mavericks. There's been 2 rookie centers that he played. One of them, Thon Maker. Yes, go all the way back to the 2015-16 season. Thon Maker started 34 games. Started 34 games as a rookie. He played 13 and a half minutes a game as a starter. He only played 4 minutes a game when he was coming off the bench. So he was basically a spot starter, where Jason Kidd had this weird center rotation. That was Giannis's first year as an all-star. He was 22 years old. I think Chris Middleton was 25 years old on that team. And their center rotation was very weird. So this is a Bucks team going all the way back to 16-17. They had Greg Monroe, who was still pretty good at the time, but he never started for them. He was coming off the bench. He was basically playing the Christian Wood role, which is really funny to think about. Greg Monroe was playing that role. He never started a game. He played 81 games that season, never started. Miles Plumlee, Mason Plumlee's brother, started 12 out of 32 games that he played. John Henson played about 58 games at center, and then Thon Maker played a bunch of games, but he started 34 of those games. So Jason Kidd had a specific thing he wanted for that starting center, and Greg Monroe was not that, and he was never going to start. And so Thon Maker played, and he played about 10 minutes a game total on that team, and that team had a winning record. They were 42-40. He was the 10th pick in the draft. As a rookie, he played, he started a bunch of games, and then they won. Now, he was more of a project than Dereck Lively is. Coming in, Thon Maker was a big reach. Nobody was expecting him to go 10th in the draft. And so for them to take him, and then for Jason Kidd to play him this early is actually really surprising to me. It's sort of the way that Bucks team was constituted. He had John Henson kind of, but he was an undersized guy. They had Greg Monroe, but Jason Kidd apparently didn't want to play him at center at all. Miles Plumlee they had, but he wasn't even the good Plumlee. And so you just had this weird group of centers. And Thon Maker ended up finding a role. But my point is, he played a rookie. He played a rookie center. The other one that Jason Kidd played was Mason Plumlee as a rookie in Brooklyn, the 2013-2014 Nets. This is 11 years ago. So this is not even in my sample that I looked up that I'm going to talk about later. Jason Kidd played Mason Plumlee as a rookie in Brooklyn. He started 22 out of 70 games. He played 18 minutes a game. And I think a lot of this is because Brook Lopez only played 17 games that season. He was injured. He was out. This was Brook Lopez still when he was not taking a ton of threes, when he was not defending that well. He was just really good post scorer and all that. Very different team. But Mason Plumlee did play pretty consistently. I don't think he would have started as many games. I don't think he would have played as many minutes, but he did play pretty consistently throughout the season. But because Brook Lopez was out a ton of games that year, it's a little bit of an outlier. But we have precedent that Jason Kidd will play a rookie center. He played Thon Maker, for God's sakes. He played Mason Plumlee. So those are 2 examples with Jason Kidd. And there are only 2 teams in the last 10 years where a rookie center started 30 games or more, and the team was over 500. So for everybody that's in the start Dereck Lively, start him a bunch of games, play him, there's only been 2 teams where the rookie started 30 games or more, and they won over 50% of their games over the last 10 years. Thon Maker, who we just talked about, Jason Kidd played him, and Miles Turner, who I think is a good example for Dereck Lively. There's a couple of caveats to that, but Miles Turner in his rookie season with the Indiana Pacers, Miles Turner was playing with who was it? He was playing with Paul George was on that team. This was and then Monte Ellis was on that team as well, because Monte Ellis have it all. He was the 11th pick in the draft. He played 22.8 minutes a game. He started over 30 games, and the team went 45-37. That's what the Mavericks hope that Dereck Lively can be. That's who he can take after, which is hilarious, because we've been talking about Miles Turner as the guy for the Mavericks at center for a long time. Coming up, let's talk about the other centers. Who are other good examples for what Dereck Lively could be and how he could play and how much he could play if the team expects to win? We'll talk about that coming up.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
All right, Isaac, let's get into the rest of this. So there is some precedent. Jason Kidd has played some rookie centers. So if you're in the camp of Dereck Lively should play, I believe he's the answer, but I think he's going to bring him along slowly. And this is why. There's only been 2 teams over the last 10 years where a rookie center started 30 games or more, and the team won over 50% of their games. Thon Maker on the 2016-17 Bucks, when he played like 10 minutes a game, started a bunch of games because Jason Kidd had a weird thing that he didn't want to start Greg Monroe, and they won 42 games and lost 40 games. They're barely over 500. It was a really young team, 22-year-old Giannis and all that. The other team is Miles Turner on his rookie year with Paul George, Monte Ellis. Miles Turner started over 30 games, played 23 minutes a game. The team went 45 and 37. So those are the 2 instances over the last 10 years where a rookie center started over 30 games and the team won over 50% of their games. Some other good examples, though, if Dereck Lively is not going to be the starter, because I think there's more precedent for him being brought along slowly than there is for him to start right out of the gate. And that's why I don't think it's going to happen. I think I agree with Isaac that they should just start him right out of the gate, but it just doesn't happen in the NBA. And that's why it won't happen. Why they'll start Dwight Powell. They'll start Rashawn Holmes over him. Unless Dereck Lively is a lot more ready than we expect, which could happen. He's got all the tools. He's got all the things. We talked about that earlier. Okay. Full-time starters as rookies. Looking at over the last 10 years, here are rookies that are full-time starters. So they started every game that they played. So if you're in the camp where Dereck Lively's got to start, he's got to start every game. He's got to go out there and so these are the only rookies as centers that started every game they played. And the team's record. DeAndre Ayton on the Suns, they were 19 and 63 when he played. Karl Anthony Towns on the Timberwolves, they were 29 and 53 when he played. Nerlens Noel on the Philadelphia 76ers, they were in the process, but they were 18 and 64. Joel Embiid, MVP, he started every game he played as a rookie, which was like 30-something games, but they were 28 and 54. Wendell Carter Jr. on the Bulls, they had Zach LaVine. He started every game he played. They were 22 and 60. There's not been a full-time rookie center in the last 10 years that has won 30 games, let alone won over 50% of their games, let alone made the playoffs. It's just unprecedented for over the last 10 years. And if you go past 10 years, you're back to 2012, it's just a different NBA. LeBron was playing 4 for the first time, and it was the big deal. Like, it's just such a different NBA than it is now. Imagine an NBA where LeBron playing 4 is a weird thing. That was 10 years ago. So it's just not precedented for him to start every single game. I don't think it'll happen. I don't think that unless he's just super ready and he's so much better than we expect him to be. Because those are the only 5 that started every game they played as a rookie, and their teams were terrible. Now, there's more precedent, and I think this is where Dereck Lively is going to fall into place. For guys on their teams that got worked into the starting lineup, that didn't start right away, but eventually by the end of the season, their coach was like, all right, I got no other choice. I'm going to start this guy because he's that good. Their teams weren't that great, but still. Walker Kessler, last year, he was a 22nd pick in the draft for the Utah Jazz, and then he started a few spot starts here and there, but the last 34 games he played, he started every game. Miles Turner. Well, I talked about him, his rookie year, 11th pick. He started over 30 games. He had a thumb injury early in the season, but then he started 30 of his last 37 games. So by the end of the season, coach, that Pacers team was like, all right, I got to start this guy. He's really good. Jokic for Denver. He was the 41st pick in the draft. After the first 25 games, he started every single game at center for the Nuggets. That team only went 33 and 49, though. That team was not as good as you'd expect a Jokic team to be. He was not Nikola Jokic just yet. And then Jarrett Allen. This is the one that I really think that Dereck Lively could emulate. He was the 22nd pick in the draft for the Brooklyn Nets at the time. He played about 20 minutes a game, and after the first 50 games of the season, he started the last 31. So those are 4 guys where eventually, by the end of the season, they got worked in as the starter. Here's what date each of those guys found their starting role and kept it. Walker Kessler, January 5th. Miles Turner, January 28th. Jokic, January 2nd. Jarrett Allen, January 30th. So sometime in January, things change. And this is right about when teams figure out what they are. This is what we are. This is what we lack. And they start making some moves. That's what I think will happen with the Dallas Mavericks and Dereck Lively. They'll realize, all right, I think he's ready. He's developed a little bit. He's played in the G League maybe. He's gone back and forth. He's played minutes for us. And then in January, they'll decide, all right, we're going to play Dereck Lively. We're going to start him. And we're going to just go down with the ship if it does. Because we need what he brings so badly. That's what I think is going to happen. But the only team that had a winning record doing that was Miles Turner's Pacers. Walker Kessler's Jazz didn't. Jarrett Allen's Nets were only 28-54 that season. I mean, they're bad teams if you're starting a rookie center. It just doesn't happen that much. But I think he's going to get worked into the lineup. That's what I think is going to happen if I had to make a guess. The other centers that started over 30 games. So I mentioned Miles Turner and Thon Maker were 2 rookie centers that started over 30 games. Here's the other ones. Are you ready for this? Jalen Williams in OKC last year. So this is Jay Will. Jay will take a charge for OKC. He started a bunch of games for them. He started over 30. This is all centers that started over 30 games. He started over 30 games. They went 40-42. So they were under, but they made the play in and all that. Walker Kessler, he started over 30 games. Their team didn't make the playoffs, didn't make the play in either. Jokic, we mentioned him. Willie Cauley-Stein for the Kings. He started over 30 games. They went 33-49. Karl-Anthony Towns, he was the number 1 pick for the Timberwolves. He started over 30 games. They were 29-53. Joel Embiid, same thing. Jarrett Allen, mentioned him. Jeremiah Robinson Earl for OKC a couple years ago. He started over 30 games at center. He's different case. He's like a 4 that got started in that role. Wendell Carter Jr. talked about him. DeAndre Ayton, he started over 30 games. They were a really bad team. Nerlens Noel, they were really bad. Jalen Duren, his rookie year, they went 17-64 on the Pistons. But those are all those centers over the last 30 years that started over 30 games. All the rookie centers that started over 30 games for their team. There's not a precedent for Dereck Lively to start this much as maybe some people hope. And so it brings me all the way back. Dereck Lively is the answer for the Dallas Mavericks at center, but when will they be ready? I think it's going to be January. Late January. If he really is ready for his rookie year, it will happen around January. He'll get into the role. And you just hope that something unprecedented happens because there's only been 2 players that have played on these teams that have rookie centers that have started over 30 games, that have won over 50% of their games. And you just hope that he's another Miles Turner. That's what you have to hope if you're the Dallas Mavericks. So let me know in the comment section, who do you think will play more minutes? Tell me I'm crazy. I still think that Dwight or Rashawn Holmes plays more minutes eventually than Dereck Lively. Because they're just going to have such a leg up early in the season. But let me know in the comment section. Tomorrow we'll be back, Isaac and I, breaking down some more Dallas Mavericks. We've got FIBA preparation games for Slovenia. We'll be covering those, just like their Mavericks games. We'll cover Luka and all that. And maybe we'll check in on Canada and Dwight, see if he gets any time. But there you go. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs. Peace out. Boom!